Imagine a country so rich that its oil could pay for schools, hospitals, and highways for every single person. A nation where the streets buzzed with opportunity and people dreamed of a brilliant future. That country was Venezuela. But today, the Venezuela of that era is almost unrecognizable. Hyperinflation has turned its money into worthless paper. Food and medicine are dangerously scarce. Millions have fled their homes. How did a country that was once the crown jewel of Latin America fall into one of the worst economic disasters in modern history? This is the incredible story of Venezuela's rise, its shocking collapse, and the powerful lessons the world often chooses to ignore. Back in the mid-20th century, Venezuela was one of the wealthiest countries in Latin America. Its fortune came almost entirely from one thing: oil, discovered in the early 1900s. By the 1950s, Venezuela was a top global oil exporter, and that oil money funded massive projects. New roads, schools, hospitals, and public services sprang up everywhere. During this golden age, Venezuela's income per person was higher than in many European countries. It became a magnet for immigrants seeking a better life. The nation was vibrant, with a growing middle class, a stable democracy, and a thriving urban economy. But hidden beneath this glittering surface was a fatal flaw. Venezuela's entire economy depended on oil. Other vital sectors like farming, manufacturing, and local industries were left behind. This single point of failure would eventually become its downfall. You see, oil can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse. For Venezuela, its immense oil wealth created what economists call the resource curse. When oil prices were high, the government spent money like there was no tomorrow. But when prices inevitably dropped, the whole economy crumbled. Political instability made everything worse. In the 1980s, corruption spun out of control. Governments mismanaged the oil money, and social programs were poorly planned. Then, in 1989, when oil prices crashed dramatically, the country plunged into a severe economic crisis. Riots exploded in the capital, Caracas, during an event that became known as the Caracazo, leaving hundreds dead. This period of chaos and suffering planted the seeds of deep public anger, setting the stage for a populist leader who promised to change everything. Inigo Hugo Chavez rose to power, carried by a powerful wave of public fury over corruption and inequality. He promised a Bolivarian revolution, a socialist transformation designed to empower the poor. And with oil revenues flowing, Chavez launched bold programs: free healthcare, free education, and new housing for the most vulnerable. On the surface, it looked like a miracle. Poverty rates did fall at first, and Venezuela gained international fame for its ambitious social policies. But there was a hidden, devastating cost. Chavez nationalized key industries, expanded state control over the economy, and made the country almost completely dependent on oil exports. At the same time, he imposed strict currency controls that scared away foreign investment and crippled private businesses. Between 2000 and 2010, oil prices soared to record highs. Venezuela seemed incredibly prosperous. Chavez's popular programs were only sustainable as long as that oil money kept pouring in. But this was all an illusion. Economists warned that relying only on oil without building other industries or controlling inflation was a ticking time bomb. The government borrowed billions of dollars, betting that high oil prices would last forever. But of course, they didn't. When global oil prices finally crashed in 2014, the Venezuelan economy was completely unprepared. The collapse was brutal, and it was fast. From 2014 onward, the country descended into chaos. First, hyperinflation hit. The currency, the bolivar, became so worthless that its value against the US dollar reached trillions to one at its worst. Then came the shortages. Basic necessities like food and medicine vanished from store shelves. Hospitals lacked even the most essential supplies. This triggered a mass migration. Over 7 million Venezuelans fled the country, creating one of the largest migration crises in the history of Latin America. The economy itself shrank by more than 70% between 2013 and 2020. The root causes were a perfect storm of economic mismanagement, political corruption, total over-reliance on oil, and international sanctions that only made the suffering of ordinary people worse. The numbers are shocking, but the human stories behind them are even more heartbreaking. Families that once had secure, middle-class jobs were now scavenging for food to survive. Doctors and professionals were forced to leave hospitals and flee to safer countries. Children were going to bed hungry every night. Venezuela's collapse isn't just a lesson in economics, it's a powerful lesson in governance, accountability, and resilience. It shows that when a government mismanages its resources and dismantles its institutions, the first and highest price is always paid by its citizens. Venezuela stands as a stark cautionary tale for any nation rich in natural resources. The lessons are clear. First, diversify the economy. Relying on just one resource makes a country incredibly vulnerable to global market swings. Second, plan for volatility. Commodity prices go up and down. Saving money during the good times is absolutely crucial for surviving the bad times. Third, build strong institutions. Transparency, the rule of law, and independent oversight are the best defenses against corruption. And finally, balance social programs with fiscal responsibility. Social welfare is vital, but it has to be sustainable in the long run. Even today, Venezuela is showing small signs of a slow, painful recovery, but the road ahead is incredibly steep. The country's journey from riches to ruin is both tragic and profoundly instructive. Oil made it rich, but overdependence, political missteps, and corruption made it poor again. Millions of lives were shattered in the process, and the lessons from this tragedy echo far beyond Latin America. What happened in Venezuela could happen anywhere if wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few. If institutions are weak, and if leaders choose to ignore economic reality, the question now isn't just how did Venezuela fall, but rather, can it ever rise again? And more importantly, what can the rest of the world learn from its story before it's too late? Thanks for watching. If you found this story insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the events that shape our world.